This is discussion week number 5, the impacts of Marbury versus Madison, Supreme Court case 5 U.S. 137 by Roger Thompson for Constitutional Law 2, POL 485. The United States government, before this Supreme Court case, had no formal judicial review process by the courts. The acts of Congress were in conflict with the United States Constitution. That was primarily, in essence, what led to this case. A very strong point into this case was the Legislative Congress's repeal of the Judiciary Act of 1802, which actually there was a case before that too, which was Stewart v. Loward, which wasn't addressed in this case study, but they kind of had set precedent leading us to the Marbury and Madison case. The significant impacts with regards to Marbury versus Madison was, in essence, the decision of the court by the Supreme Court basically had put limits and parameters of the legislative powers of Congress, which at the time they were enacting laws that were deemed unconstitutional. And without the establishment of a judicial review doctrine, which was the major importance of Marbury versus Madison, it gave the courts the ability to review legislation, laws established by Congress, and it laid the foundation of what we know today as our constitutional law. The Marbury versus Madison case impacts our lives even today with reference to the judicial branch establishing the judicial power, if you will, to strike down legislation which it deems violating, to have violated the United States Constitution, laws being enacted by Congress. It established the United States Constitution as actual law for our newly formed government, which was incredibly important. And it also defined the boundaries between the executive and judicial branches of government. You could argue the legislative branch as well in that, through the process of judicial review. It did not address anything having to do with the overall separation of powers established within the Constitution, but it was critical with the establishment of judicial review with legislation. With regards to identifying an aspect that I would personally like to see changed within the court case of Marbury versus Madison, it's the only thing I would probably highlight, and as I have written in the slide, it would be to clarify the political partisanship among the judicial branch of government, basically having no bias in judicial review. Obviously, that wasn't of great concern as we see today, with having political partisanship of the judicial branch. Some of that is just elevated within the last, I think, probably 20, 30 years. I understand politics, even back to FDR, has played a large role in the Supreme Court decisions, like I said, going back to FDR's. However, the only thing I could say it would have been nice to establish the foundation within Marbury versus Madison to having the courts be that political, nonpartisan, neutral determination through judicial review. Well, in my conclusion, I would like to thank my fellow classmates for reviewing my slide presentation, my very long-winded slide presentation. I think the most important thing to take away from our discussion this week is the establishment of judicial review, and how important this case was in establishing the foundation of the judicial branch of government establishing itself and laying the foundation of constitutional law in our country. It was a very important case then. It was and as well, it's a very extremely important case today. Thank you again for watching my presentation, and God bless.